Hi everyone, because we don't have a collab this week due to the holiday, I will do this pre-recording. So while we go through this pre-recording, please take note that I'll go through quite fast through the slides. So if you need to stop and take notes or anything, please just pause the video and I'll continue from there. So just to start off, I want us to think about the upcoming assessment and how we can approach the upcoming assessment. So I want to start, before we go into the content of learning units 1 to 6, I want you to look at reflective reading to cultivate thinking. Firstly, individualized thinking. You need to make your decisions, the decision to think. What does that mean? It means that you can't just expect other people to think for you, you need to think for yourself. Ask questions while reading, even if they are dumb questions. Now, this is obvious in a lecture, asking questions to your lecturer, but it is also very important to ask questions for yourself in the meaning of the content that you go through. Independent research and understanding, and be curious, especially in your assignment. You would need to do independent research, go beyond the textbook and understand the topic better. It's important that you obviously aim to understand, but also be curious. Yes, all of us might not enjoy business management, but there might be aspects that you could enjoy if you just go and research them. If there's anything ever that you find interesting in any aspect of any learning unit, go and do further research so you can better understand it. Challenge experts. I wouldn't really call myself an expert, but challenge your lecturer, ask questions, challenge the smartest people in your class, but seek challenge and try and be innovative. What does it mean to be innovative? To seek solutions. That's what it means to be innovative, being creative, seeking out solutions to problems and meditate on them. What does that mean to meditate? I'm not saying that you're going to sit cross-legged and think about it. I'm saying that you have to meditate in terms of thinking about the idea that you might have or the material that you are studying. So just as like a background to important stuff or information that you can use in business management in the first few learning units. So for example, communism in Africa. Communism in Africa has been around, well, almost since the first time people outside Africa came into Africa. But just for example, the USA wrongly pursued and criminally charged communists within their country. So this is the reference from Turning Point. China and the USSR seek to sever Africa's ties with the West and align with socialist camp. This has already been released by the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency in America, in 1965. So this is quite an old reference. Ethiopia, Angola and other have communistic monuments within their countries, though communism is not thriving in Africa. In the 1920s, the ANC leadership was divided over the partnership of communists in the party. So this is in the Encyclopedia of Britannica in 2024. Further allegations arose when Jacob Zuma was accused of being influenced by the South African Communist Party, where the ANC has close ties with them. So why did I show you that, guys? I showed you that because this is what basic research got me. It got me to sources from 1965 from the CIA, but more recent sources as well. But if you guys have time, please watch this video. You can just go onto YouTube and Google or YouTube search Nelson Mandela on socialism and land nationalization in South Africa. More recently, now in 2025, the national I can't remember what that thing was called. Sorry, the Land Expropriation Act was released recently in South Africa and has obviously garnered a lot of controversy. But in 1992, Mandela said they're not aiming to make a socialist state, but we are a very socialist state. They were aiming towards a broad political movement. They focus on free enterprise, so capitalism, individual land ownership, which this new bill is, or this new act is kind of like impeding upon us. He wanted capitalism to flourish and nationalize, so that lies should actually be LISE, because we're doing South African English. Key sectors, which they actually did, but most of those key sectors were failing. So going to learning unit 1, what are the institutions of the market economy? So business organizations, these are businesses that sell goods, people that own these businesses and own these goods, where money must be made and where businesses can provide for these needs that consumers want or people want. So for example, if I want a sandwich, there might be a business that offers that sandwich for me, based on people from a strategic background, like strategic managers that create this product from top down to the very employee that actually puts the sandwich together, to the consumers who have unlimited needs. Governmental organization, state sell goods, state creates electricity, for example. This is for profit or just to own the strategic part of the private sector. They want to own it, like electricity in South Africa. But as a whole, the government does have limited influence on business, although if they set out laws like the Land Expropriation Act, it does affect businesses negatively. For example, you can see that the state offers electricity. Ramaphosa is the head of the state, and there's an unlimited need for electricity in South Africa, and load shedding is an example of where they don't fulfill that need. A non-profit seeking organization, a need satisfying institution, not specifically for profit, even though they still need to make money, where they require financial support. They require a lot of volunteers, and they require a lot of donations, money or otherwise, depending on what the NPO is aimed at. Like in this case, it would be clothes. They might be donating clothes to people who don't have clothes, who don't have access to newer clothes or whatever it might be. But other cases, it might be towards cancer research, or cancer research in kids, like cancer or CHOC, if you guys want to do research on that. What type of questions can be asked based on this theory that we just covered in the textbook? Name the economic system implemented in South Africa and justify your answer. So that justify your answer is where you're going to get the brunt of your marks. Identify the types of businesses that exist in South Africa's economy. Provide examples. Now, in any question that you get in business management, you need to either provide examples or link it back to the case study. Differentiate between the three main economic or economies, or the economic systems, or maybe the three main business forms. Explain the benefits and disadvantages of the different economies. Explain the benefits and the disadvantages of different forms of business. Define communism and provide examples thereof. So these are all questions that you could get, and our questions are usually structured in your assessments. So looking at the one question, differentiate between the three main economies or business forms. How can you answer this question? Define each from the textbook. So define each economy or each business form. Explain the differences from the textbook, and then you introduce additional references. Alright, how it applies to a business or to businesses. You can do this all in 2 paragraphs if it's 10 marks, maybe 3 paragraphs, 4 to 6 sentences per paragraph, and at least minimum 2 references to your textbook, and at least one extra credible source. Going to the next learning unit, the entrepreneurial process. So there's certain steps to the entrepreneurial process: self-assessment of entrepreneurial traits, access to necessary resources, objective opportunity assessment, conducting a feasibility study, compiling a business plan, and actually the implementation thereof, launching and managing the business. So Elena owns a call center in Johannesburg for the past 3 years. So this is my examples, guys, and her aim or goal is to build wealth. So firstly, self-assessment of entrepreneurial traits. So maybe Alina has achievement motivation and an internal locus of control, whereas her business partner might be more innovative and creative and more willing to take risks. Going to access to necessary resources, certain financial resources, human resources, operating or physical resources, and even informational resources. And your textbook also talks about the entrepreneur as a resource on its own as well. So for example, Elena might have a million rand or access to R1 million bank loan, 10 full-time employees, 25 part-time employees, office space in the industrial area of Johannesburg. She focuses on being the call center for smaller businesses, so SMEs, small to medium-sized enterprises around the Johannesburg industrial area. So that's a target market. The objective opportunity assessment. So she wants to identify the opportunity. So she needs to consider industry trends, how many people, how many businesses actually want call centers. She wants to assess the industry life cycle. So where in the industry life cycle is she? Is maybe something like a call center at the introduction? Is it at the peak? Is it declining? For example, something like AI. Maybe AI is forcing call centers out and pinching them because the initial cost of maybe purchasing AI that instead of paying people to do a call center might be a lot, but over 5 years or 10 years it might work out much cheaper. Identifying growth industries, exploring new ventures, ensuring there is an actual market lead, and evaluating certain growth potential. So conducting a feasibility study, can you actually make money out of that? Assessing success. So not all businesses obviously succeed, but the practicality, the financial operational study, so this part of a feasibility study, can it practically be applied? Can I allocate resources so it's not too expensive, and can I make money from it? And operationally, is it relatively easy to implement and to manage so that they can actually make money out of it? Am I able to survive and be sustainable? And can I draw up the actual business plan, which is the next step, compiling the actual business plan, where I might need to bring in my partner again. Starting with the executive summary, the business description, the products and the service plan. So what am I going to, physical products I'm going to sell, or in this case the service that I'm going to provide SMEs. The plans, the management, the marketing, the operating, and the financial plans, and the supporting materials. So sometimes a business plan can be very large, and business plans are usually aimed at financial institutions or maybe investors that want to invest in your business. Then actually launching the business plan. So Elena's business has already been operating for 3 years. It aims to expand. She wants to maybe add in more permanent and less part-time employees. She is considering introducing a human resource manager so that the employees can be better managed, and maybe a marketing person or marketing team so that the customers can be served better and new customers can be attained. So I will share a QR code with you guys with a quiz that you guys can do a bit later. So going on to learning unit, I think this is learning unit 3, the market environment. So you obviously have the macro, the market, and the micro environment. So variables within the market environment. So one variable is competition, and very important part of this chapter is Porter's 5 forces: the threat of new entrants, the bargaining power of suppliers, the threat of substitute products, competitive rivalry, and the bargaining power of buyers. So if we go back to this, actually learning unit 4 actually. So if we go back to Elena, the nature and intensity of competition can be determined by the possibility of new entrants. So maybe there's low entry barriers to operating a call center, high initial investment, or even something like the POPIA Act, because there's a lot of information sharing going on, maybe between them, the SMEs, and the consumers. So that's very important consideration as well. And how is it easy or not for a new business to come in and operate and maybe steal away clients from Elena? The number of existing competitors. There's a lot of call centers. There's many existing call centers in South Africa and obviously outside as well. There might be price wars. People might be loyal to the call center, especially if the learning curve is a lot. So if I have, say, I think I said Elena has 35 employees altogether with the part-time employees. So if she gets a new SME as a consumer, then all her employees need to learn about that business and what that business offers. So when people call the call center, that they can serve the customers as well of the SME. So it's difficult for a business to just go from one call center to the next from month to month. So loyalty is very important. The rapid technological advancements as well. If you have, maybe if you're a larger call center, you might have more access to technology most likely, and then you'd be maybe have better access to the developments around artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence is getting so good now that a lot of people can't determine if, when they speak to someone on the other side, that's actually AI, not an actual person. If you only go into deep detail, then the AI starts struggling to answer your questions. The bargaining power of clients and consumers. They should expect, consumers should expect a high quality service, but that's in any industry. Demand for competitive pricing and required tailored solutions. Obviously, each SME needs to have a tailored solution. I can't be a call center and give the same information based on 10 different SMEs to their clients, because these 10 SMEs have 10 different services maybe that they offer, or maybe in different industries as well. So each needs to be tailored, and are my employees able to cater to these 10 different SMEs, or do I have to split my employees into different divisions? But obviously they also have less power because it's more difficult for them to go from one call center to another call center. The bargaining power of suppliers like telecommunication and software providers. There's certain software requirements at the call center, so that the calls that comes to the call center can be directed to the right, maybe the right person, and that the profile pops up on the PC of the call center attendant or the employee, so that they know who they're speaking with and the background of that person. Switching cost as well. So for example, just like the consumers have a high switching cost, meaning that if they use one call center and then use another call center, it's going to cost them a lot of time, effort, and money to kind of like teach the new call center what is required from them. But it's also high switching cost for them to go from, say, a Vodacom to a Telcom, because the contracts might need to change, the way they operate might need to change, etc., etc. And then obviously supplier concentration as well. There's very few suppliers that dominate the market, reducing negotiation power. Obviously, it's getting more and more filled with competitors, so it's not only Vodacom, MTN, Cell C, and those places anymore. You get places like Afrios, Rain Mobile that also offer these services. But the problem is, if you backtrack or you go down the supply line, a lot of these service providers still needs to use the spectrum. You guys can go and Google that. Either from, I think it's either MTN, Vodacom, and Telkom. I think those are the, I might be wrong, the only businesses in South Africa that is really allowed to sell data over mobile data, to sell mobile data. The availability and non-availability of substitute products, maybe like AI, automation, chatbot, stuff like that. So a substitute product is, it's not precise, you're not in direct competition, but it's kind of like indirect competition. It's kind of like, instead of me going to watch a sport event live, I might watch it on television. So it's not direct competition, but it's similar. self-service options as well, maybe on the website of the SME, and then international call centers as well, maybe from India, which is very popular. It might be a lot cheaper for SMEs to use call centers from outside South Africa. I will still share the quizzes with you guys, just remind me. And then going into learning unit 3, the types of businesses. So sole proprietorship. I first want you guys to meet Ollie. Ollie starts a farm, manages it solo because it's a sole proprietorship. Ollie bears all the risk, enjoys full control and keeps all profits, but faces all challenges solo. So what did Ollie do? Introduced Opal. So Ollie and Opal went into a partnership. Opal is a neighboring farm. They discussed farm expansion, forms a partnership agreement, shares responsibility equally, splits profits fairly, and grows their farms together. However, they considered opening up a closed corporation, but then they realized they're not allowed to. So if they wanted to open a closed corporation, they had to buy it from someone who already has a closed corporation. A closed corporation, they're not allowed to have more than 10 members. So them being only 2 members, that's fine. That own and control the closed corporation, that exists as a separate legal person. So it's almost like a balance between a company, a private company, and a partnership. Why are they struggling? What are the remaining options? So they're struggling because they're not allowed to open up a new closed corporation, so they need to buy the rights to the existing one from a person that sells it. If that's, I'm not even sure if you still can buy closed corporations. So what's the remaining options? They can either open up a company, a private or publicly owned, that includes all these advantages and disadvantages. You guys can pause or you can just reflect on your textbook. So public company or private company. You also obviously get state-owned companies or personal liability companies. Personal liability companies are more for doctors and lawyers and stuff like that. Might be applicable to you guys. So check your textbook regarding that, or do further research. Or a non-for-profit company, which might not really be applicable to a farming business. Otherwise, they can do a business trust with ordinary trust established, and then a business trust out of that ordinary trust. So it's not a juristic person, it's a separate taxpayer, the business trust. There's a conduit principle of income, where income tax or income according to the conduit principle, and then transfer via the trust deed. So the trust deed is basically the document that says who owns what and how much, etc., etc. However, the advantages and disadvantages you guys can reflect on. You can pause the video, read through them, and email me if you guys have any questions regarding this. The cooperative is very popular around agriculture and farmers and stuff like that. Types of businesses as a cooperative, where it is kind of like a company where there is a juristic person, there's limited liability, so they're not going to lose everything. They can only lose what they invest into the business. It's open membership as well, and there's it's a flexible type of business form. It's almost like the different businesses go into a partnership as a cooperative, and they can with the cooperative work with other, maybe a warehousing company where they can store their goods that they get from the farm, and they can go in the cooperative with a logistics company where they can work together, where it's cheaper for them. And as they work together as a cooperative and they go to SPAR to go and sell their goods, they will have more power because they have more resources between maybe the two farms, the logistics and the warehousing company or businesses. So legal form of ownership, which enterprises is a juristic person, the company, the co-op and the CC. Which forms of ownership is not a juristic person, sole proprietor, partnership, and business trust. What is the link between a juristic person and limited liability? A juristic person has limited liability, so do members of a company. Which legal document describes the control of a business trust? A trust deed. So looking at this question, justify why your choice of business ownership is the best option if you look at Opel and what's the other one's name? And the Austrians, I can't remember what the other one's name is. If this is a 5-mark question, define from the textbook, advise on an advantage because you want to justify and add an additional source to improve your argument. Alright, why this form of ownership is the best. There we go for Ollie and Opel's business. All in one paragraph, 46 sentences, at least 2 references, at least. So looking at the next learning unit, steps in the stakeholder engagement process, prepare, plan, design, engage, evaluate, and apply. Prepare, identify, understand who are Ollie and Opel stakeholders. Plan, set objectives, what goals can we make to engage with the stakeholders. And the next step, design, develop the engagement plan. How are we going to engage, when are we going to engage, what's the difference between our investors, our consumers, our suppliers, etc., etc. Engage by meeting objectives, so Opel meets the targets. Ollie assesses the targets, so Ollie evaluates and assesses the outcomes, and they both come together and apply, share the information with each other, so the next time they engage with their stakeholders that it can go better. Looking at the managerial levels and skills, you have top management. The most important skill for top manager is conceptual skills, long-term strategy, decision making. These are things that you need to think about. Conceptual skills, holistic business view, the ability to view the business as a whole, thinking, planning, etc. Workers should know their place in the business. Middle management, more focus on interpersonal skills, work with people. Lower level management should be able to communicate with workers and top level managers as well. Lower level management, more focus on technical skills, discipline specific knowledge like engineers. Top management should still be able to understand daily tasks. If you go back to from top to bottom, and if you use this example in your textbook, you can see that conceptual skills is most important for top managers, and for workers technical skills is the most important. So how would you in your assignment, for example, write about this? So firstly, steps: read your textbook, understand what you read, write it in your own words, obviously based on the case study or the example that you want to use. Reference from the Harvard Anglia referencing guide, and upload your assignment and check similarity, and upload it as soon as possible, guys. The similarity sometimes takes very long to show from Turnitin. Tips: source relevant references, credible sources, use your own words to paraphrase based on your specific understanding. Paraphrasing aids your understanding. Reread the textbook or the credible source multiple times for understanding. Maintain the original meaning. Don't change the meaning of what is written. Ensure there is understanding in your writing, and flow between one paragraph to the next, or from one sentence to the next, so that if you talk about one idea like the entrepreneurial process, you don't talk about steps 1, 3 and 5 all in one paragraph. Maybe paragraph 1 is step 1, paragraph 2 is step 2, paragraph 3 is step 3, for example. And always credit the original sources. So always reference the sources that you use. Common errors in paraphrasing, it's a very similar or the same structure, so maybe you're just using synonyms. You change the meaning of what was written. There's no references or no citations, so citations is just another word or another way of saying there's no references. Avoid just using synonyms, so you can't just use synonyms for words like the entrepreneurial process. You can't change the entrepreneurial process to the business owner system. It's not the same thing. It's called the entrepreneurial process. By the explanation of the entrepreneurial process, you can maybe change the words. Just change the sentence structure. That's not right either. You can't just change the subject and the object of the sentence. I think that's fine. And then not using direct quotes. So sometimes you do have to use direct quotes, especially if it's like a definition. You can use direct quotes and add the page number of that definition. So how to answer this 10-mark question: identify which skill best aligns with the managerial level. So how can you answer this? Performance outcomes of managers is closely related to the skills they possess. So there's my first reference. Top management requires conceptual skills to be effective managers. Middle managers require interpersonal skills. There is my textbook reference. Contrarily, human skills are the most important at all managerial levels. I'll go back to that original reference. Technical skills are predominant in lower level managers. So you can see in that entire paragraph I talk about the different skills of managers. And in my next second paragraph, manager skills improve at all levels as they rise to organizational levels. Although strategic skills, which is similar to conceptual skills, seems to be predominant towards top management. Nonetheless, Erasmus et al. 2023 indicates that conceptual, technical, and interpersonal skills are required on all organizational levels. So it's to the point. I identified which skill best aligns with what managerial level. I mentioned all the managerial levels. I mentioned all the skills, and I even said introduce at least one additional credible source. Paraphrase the following direct quotes from your textbook in 2 sentences. So this is a task that you can do. I didn't add the page numbers there. I'll add the page numbers if I remember. But you can pause this, write it in your own words. So the advice I would give you is read these 2 paragraphs and then try and rewrite them in your own words. It doesn't have to be as much words as this. It can be you rewriting these 2 paragraphs in 1 paragraph. But try and do that and test it and see how similar it is to this and if the meaning is the same or very similar. There's another video that you guys can go through regarding changing your view, and this video is about changing your perspective, being unaware of your limits. Most people are not aware what their limitations are. Challenge your own thinking. You must be willing to challenge your own assumptions. You might think that something is right, but there's a very good quote. I can't remember who said it originally, but I know Brett Weinstein, who's an evolutionary biologist, said this. He said that you have to have strong opinions held loosely. What does that mean? It means that you have to be, if you have an opinion about something, it needs to be very strong, but it needs to be held loosely. If someone gives you information that's actually accurate, that's from a credible source, from an academic source especially, then you should be willing to change your opinion, but your opinion should still be strong. Learn from different viewpoints. Growth is a process, and be open to change. So just for example, right, and I think a lot of people go through this. When I was in my early 20s, I thought that socialism and communism was like the thing to do, and that the only reason it doesn't work is because we didn't try hard enough. We didn't try and actually implement it and have this utopia, which is actually a dystopia. But now, I had a strong opinion about that in my early 20s. Now, when I got older, in my later 20s and early 30s now, that strong opinion got very weak, and now I'm fully into capitalism. So I'm a very strong proponent of capitalism, free markets, free trade, ownership of land, and just competition in general, as long as it's done ethically. It's a strong opinion I have, but I still am open to especially opinions about socialism and a bit about communism as well, even though there's a very good argument that communism is evil, but it's an interesting, I have a strong opinion about capitalism, but it's loosely held. If someone offers me relevant practical examples and research and evidence otherwise, I'm more than willing to adapt my thought. So the roles of managers, these aren't the skills, these are the roles of managers. It's interpersonal roles, informational roles, and decision-making roles. I'm not going to go through all of them. You guys can pause this video, read through them, and go to your textbook and read through the textbook as well. What I want us to focus now on is asking ChatGPT stuff. So maybe I don't understand what interpersonal means. Interpersonal refers to anything related to relationship, interactions, communication, blah, 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 blah. That's what ChatGPT said. If I didn't use any information, I didn't reference this, I still have to disclose this because I didn't understand what interpersonal meant. ChatGPT did, it gave me an answer. I'm not going to use any of this information, but I have to disclose it. So if you guys ever do this, please disclose it like this. You can see that link at the bottom right. That link is a shared link. Means that if you go and click on that link now, it'll open that chat that I had with ChatGPT and you'll be able to see all the prompts. You can't just copy and paste the website link at the very top, because when I go and access it, it's not accessible anymore. You have to actually copy the chat. You need to see, where is it? I think if you press that, you can copy the chat, but whatever, and then you can share that with us. But otherwise, if you reference AI, if you use this information and paraphrase it, then you actually have to reference it. So there's in your reference list, and if you use interpersonal means, how people need to communicate through understanding reactions. OpenAI 2025, but this is not a credible source. So if you reference AI with your textbook, it's not going to add to the argument because AI is not a credible source. AI didn't create this definition of interpersonal communication or whatever it might be. It got information from somewhere else. So it's already at least 2, maybe 3 steps removed from the original person that created that the definition of interpersonal. So AI, a word or phrase that you do not fully understand, and from any of this information you can pause the video and then see what answer it gives you, and then if you use that maybe within your assignment or stuff, please disclose it as we said earlier. Write out the disclosure, the title, the question number where you used it, the reason for using it, and the link to the AI generated chat. So referencing, what we look at consistency. Is the referencing the same throughout your paper, throughout your assignment, and is each paragraph at least referenced? Technical correctness, the right referencing format, referencing the concepts, the technical aspects thereof, and congruence. Are all your in-text references in your reference list? Obviously you need to use examples, but even if you use your own examples, go and find a reference for them. What do I mean? You didn't just thumbsuck this. You thumbsucked it because you understood something from the textbook and you thought, oh, okay, it links to that. And whatever that links to, if it links to the motoring industry or whatever it might be, go and find a reference for that and improve your argument. I'm not sure what's going on now. So that's just another example of paraphrasing. You can scan this QR code and complete this form regarding a referencing on MS Forms. You guys can do this at any time. And looking at 7 poor thinking habits, jumping to conclusions. You might read one sentence and not the entire paragraph, jump to a conclusion and think, oh, okay, that's right. Similar to when you read an article, you just read the headlines and say, oh, okay, that's what they meant. You don't actually read the article. Making assumptions, negative thinking, so thinking everything is wrong, imprisoning your mind basically. Every thought and word you speak imprints on your future. Positive people, even if you're a positive person, you don't believe that everything is perfect, but you still aim at positive thinking. You don't think everything is bad or blah blah blah. It's like when I give you guys feedback in your assignment, a lot of you complain about the feedback. I'm trying to show you where you can improve, and then you guys come back at me and complain, whereas you should have been positively thinking as in, oh, Tian wants me to do better and this is how I can do better, that's why he gave me feedback. So maybe I should ask him a question about the feedback if I don't understand it, and next time I can do even better. Never think that I'm criticizing you as a person. I might just be criticizing your writing or the way you answered it. So because I want you to do better. I always think, or I try and always think long term. I don't, it sounds bad, but I don't really care about your feelings at that moment. I care about your performance over the long term. I don't want you to feel good about yourself now. I want you to feel good about yourself in 5 years, in 10 years time. I want you to think back of this module, if you ever think back on this module, and think that, okay, I actually learned something from it. Losing track of your purpose and accepting inaccurate information and thinking one-sidedly. Same thing with, if you like communism, you can't just disregard socialism and capitalism, and vice versa. You still need to absorb information from it. Ignoring our own ignorance as well. Nobody knows it all. Ignorance is poverty. Curiosity means that you're willing to fail, discover, and correct yourself. You guys should also watch this video, Free Market Foundation 2023, Why Do Young South Africans Love Socialism? It's a very interesting video. And then here are all my references. Thank you guys. I hope this was useful. Let me know if you have any questions.